Hello. Today, I'd like to talk about what apocalypse movies get wrong about an apocalypse. Well, I don't know if they get it wrong, but it kind of irks me about all these apocalypse movies because they all do this. I'm trying to think if one hasn't done this. No, they all kind of do this. And it might be just the necessity of a film structure. A film structure like you got a 2 hour, maybe 2.5 hour movie, and you got to drive the plot so that it's interesting for the viewer. Uh, but I can't think of an apocalypse movie that doesn't do this. And, and this is what bothers me about them. All these movies, they it doesn't have to be a movie; it could be a book. They, they, the plot premise is that things turn to crap right away, like really quickly. There, everything's going fine. It's normal. People are happy. They're having a picnic with their children and their doggy, maybe two doggies in the park, and everything's smiley. The kids have a balloon. Maybe the little boy's flying a kite, and then poof, aliens come, or the flu comes, or toxic rain comes, or toxic snow. The toxic snow I've been thinking about because I just went on Netflix and I started watching this Argentinian TV series, 6 episodes. I've only watched two, called Eternaut. And I've only watched two, but it's in Argentina in the summer. And then all of a sudden, it starts snowing. And anyone who gets contacted or contacts the snow, they die like immediately. Like a snowflake happens and on their skin, like falls on their skin, they just die instantaneously. There was another show called Rain. I think it was a Danish TV show. I'm not sure. I enjoyed that one a lot. It was about kids surviving this apocalypse when there's this biological weapon, some kind of virus that is released, and it is in the rain. So anywhere that there's rain or puddles, if you touch it, you die. It's like the kids' game. The floor is lava. When you're a kid, you have to like jump from cushion to cushion, to the sofa to the chair, and you can't touch the floor because there's lava. If you touch the floor, you're dead. And it probably drove my parents and maybe your parents crazy with the kids jumping around on the furniture, maybe almost hurting themselves. Well, it's like a grown-up version of that. The rain is lava. Don't touch it. Don't touch the snowflakes. No touchy. You will die. And then I have been enjoying watching The Last of Us season 2, and that also has a fungal outbreak that turns people into zombies, and it just like all of a sudden happens, and then literally planes are falling out of the sky, and it's pandemonium, cars are crashing, all hell breaks out, the power grid goes down. They're all like that. There's an excellent one called Bird Box. It's probably one of my favorite ones in this kind of genre. That one is if you see these entities, they might be aliens, they might be some spiritual creature. If you see them with your eyes, it'll drive you to kill yourself. and so you cannot see them. You gotta stay blindfolded, but you gotta move around, to live, to like eat, and meanwhile everyone else is like dying, and power's out, and there's no food. Uh, but if you go into a house and you put newspaper all over the windows and block out the windows, then you're okay. As soon as you go outside, those things might be outside. They'll come find you. And these things, they can impersonate your family or friends, their voices. So while you're blindfolded, these things talk to you as if they're your friend or wife or husband or child, and it tries to get you to take your blindfold off. That's a really good one. So suspenseful. That one has Sandra Bullock in it. Really good. Sandra Bullock. So pretty and talented. Great actor. My wife says I should say actor for both male and female. So I used to say actress, but say actor. She's a great actor. I'm drinking some chamomile tea. Well, all of these movies, and there's tons more. There's like the ones where an asteroid is coming to the Earth, and there's only a set amount of time to avert the disaster, and then it hits, or people nearly. Well, I guess it wouldn't be an apocalypse if you avert the asteroid. Or there's the weather changes, like the Atlantic Meridional Overturn current. I probably totally butchered that. It's the AMOC. Atlantic Meridional Overturning current. Okay. I'd have to look that one up. But there's a current that is like a conveyor belt of heat that takes heat from like the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, now named Gulf of America. I won't go into that. But it takes the heat from the equator, and it takes it up the east coast of the United States and Canada into where Greenland is. And then it warms up the waters there up in Greenland, and it keeps the water warm where Iceland, UK, Scandinavia, well, pretty much Europe, France, Germany, all those countries there. It keeps them warmer than they would be otherwise, because there's this conveyor belt of heat. But that conveyor belt is slowing down because as the ice, well, I didn't think I was going to talk about this, but I might as well talk about it. The AMOC, I forget what each initial actually stands for, but the AMOC is this current that it's like conveyor belt of heat. The problem is, as the Earth warms, the ice sheets that are over Greenland are melting. These are miles thick of ice, fresh water. And they're cold because they're ice. And as they melt, this cold fresh water is flowing into the ocean, which is salt water. Now, fresh water is less dense than salt water. Salt water has salt in it, so it's heavier. It sinks. Also, cold water sinks compared to hot water. Well, what happens is Greenland is like this giant ice cube that's melting. And then there's fresh water coming down, and it's mixing with the warm water that's coming up from the equator along the east coast of the United States. And then what normally happens is as the warm water gets up north where it's really cold, it cools, and then it goes down. And it just overturns like this, like a conveyor belt. creates a current. The cooler water returns down south, and then it gets heated up again at the equator, and it comes back up as warm water going up. It creates this current. When you have this ice cube melting with fresh water that doesn't have salt in it, the fresh water stays on the top because it doesn't have the density with the salt. But it's cold, and it's mixing with this warmer water, and then it's preventing this overturning. So this whole circuit, this whole current is slowing down, and it could eventually stop. Now if it stops, what happens is that there'll be a lot of flooding on the east coast of the United States, and things get on the southern part, but up north and in Europe, things get really cold because of the heat. It wasn't being carried like a conveyor belt up there, and so then you got like severely cold weather locally. Even though the whole planet's warming up, locally in that area you get severely cold weather compared to what it is now. Even though the whole planet is warming up, that area gets colder, relatively speaking. Not like in the movie, the day, is it the day after? I'm not sure I got the movie titles right. There's so many of these kinds of movies, but there's one where this current, the AMOC, shuts down like this. And then now the Statue of Liberty is covered in snow, like it's covered in ice. That's not how it works. Now the AMOC is slowing down, and it is slowing down considerably with this ice melt from Greenland and just the overall warming of the planet. Because the Arctic Ocean and the Arctic air is warming faster than the air elsewhere. Like in some places 4 times as fast. Well, okay. That is a good example of how these movies don't depict like what's actually happening. And like what's actually pretty darn scary, but everyone thinks, oh, well, this like I should prep for something. I should prep for the aliens coming, or the zombies, or the what if the AMOC turns off overnight, or there's a solar flare storm, that a Carrington event that fries all, like an EMP that fries all the electronics, and that's another category of apocalypse movies. A Carrington event, or some kind of like freak solar storm that overloads all the electronics, fries them all, and then we're thrown back into the dark ages with all our electronics useless now. That is also fits right in the groove of all these other stories. Well, of all the ones, that one probably makes the most sense of something that is an acute change that happens very quickly. But maybe a deadly flu or something. But we've had deadly flus, like the Spanish flu in the early 1900s wiped out millions and millions of people. But it wasn't like these apocalypse movies that make it look like 95% of the world dies, or more. So what gets me about these movies is that they depict things happening very quickly. Like from Monday to Friday, something happens on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then everything's gone to crap by Friday. That's not what happens. That's not what's happening with us. unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, um, this, what we're living in, is more like crumbling. People call it collapse, but collapse also implies like a fast timeline. Well, Rome collapsed. The civilization of Rome collapsed. Many civilizations have collapsed. That's because civilization is not sustainable to begin with. That's why it always collapses. Well, ours will too, and it is. But Rome didn't collapse overnight. It didn't get burned down overnight, and everyone just went to a different kind of life. No, it declined for like hundreds of years. They're punctuated by periods of pretty rapid decline through like invaders. I don't know my Roman history very well, but invaders from the north coming and sacking Rome, decline in the government of how things were functioning, going from like different forms of government. I know they had like a republic and then an emperor. There's things that happen, but Rome didn't cease to exist overnight. In fact, Rome is still a city that exists right now. It's Italy. Italy is still a country that exists, but the Roman Empire is no longer. But it didn't go away overnight. It took centuries. Well, the civilization we live in, just like all the other civilizations, is not sustainable. That is the definition of civilization, is that it requires the extraction of resources from the land to grow immense amount of food to support a specialized society of people, but that requires destroying the land base. You have to cut down the trees to plant immense amounts of crops to make the immense amounts of food that makes the immense amount of people. But the problem with that is that the soil, the land, is only good for so long when the forests are cut down. It becomes a desert. It becomes infertile. So that's why civilizations collapse. Now, this one we have right now was lucky to find fossil fuels to create fertilizer. So all these forests we cut down and we planted all these foods, we can replenish some of the nutrients in the soil through converting dead dinosaur fauna and flora, like plants and animals that have been compressed over time into oil and coal and other fossil fuels, natural gas. We've been able to figure out how to convert some of those carbon deposits into things that we can use. They're not just carbon, nitrogen, into fertilizer. So then we can replenish the soil to grow foods. And we can use the same plot of land that has grown many years of crops. We can keep growing crops on that soil for a while, as long as we've got fossil fuels. But now fossil fuels are finite, and we're using a ton of them every day, every hour, every minute, and they're getting way more difficult to extract, meaning more expensive, which means that life becomes more expensive, which means that we can do less than we used to. So that's a pretty long-winded explanation for our civilization is collapsing too. But it's not what people think, like what you see in movies. It is a very slow crumbling. Humans live maybe up to 80 years. A lot of people die earlier than that. Some people live slightly longer than that. But the civilization is this particular civilization, well, we'll just say the modern one, the industrial one, I would say been around for 300 years or so. 200, 300 years, yeah. Since essentially industrial revolution, this way of life. But we're kind of coming to the towards the end of this way of life. Now, will there be another way of life after this? I don't know. I mean, there will be life after this in some kind of form. Uh, Not necessarily human. There's going to be trees and plants and fungi and bacteria and insects and fish. Well, hopefully fish. Birds, reptiles. There's going to be some animals that survive this. Will humans survive it? I don't know. But if they do survive it, they're not going to be doing what we're doing today. But that's going to be a while from now. It's not going to be like next week, all of civilization has broke out in panic and chaos, and people are killing each other in the streets, and you can't get gasoline because it's all been used up or it's gone or went bad, or maybe an EMP happened and all the electronics are out, and or maybe everyone died in like a flu that just went around the world so quickly, like a major pathogenic avian flu that just wiped out everybody. No, it's not gonna be like that. No. So I think those movies do a disservice to giving people an idea of like, you know, what is actually happening. Instead, it's like this very slow, well, for most people, I'll come back to that. It's like this very slow decline in quality of life. Things get more expensive. Food is more expensive. I went out to eat with one of my friends and his wife and my wife, and it was Italian food, and it was a nice restaurant, and the food was delicious. But the bill, we split it in half, was $130 each. So that's $65 per person, and it's Italian food. It's pasta and like a soup, a stew. It's like that shouldn't cost like $65 each. Like, what? And then my wife and I have this couch. I don't know if you can see it in the. No, you can't see it in the picture of this frame, but it's just a plain old white couch. That's a love seat, 2 seats, from Pottery Barn, and she got it over a decade ago for like $1,000. At the time, very expensive. But it's like actually, I think it's like a decade and a half old now. So, I mean, it's kind of wearing down a little bit. Our doggy likes to paw at it sometimes, and she kind of wore some holes in the covering of the seat cushion, both of them. So it's definitely got its kind of wear and tear, maybe a little bit more than what most people would tolerate in their furniture in their home. So we thought, it would be nice to replace the covers of the seat cushions and the back. Let's look at how much it costs. So she was driving. We just had lunch. We had a great lunch today, and she was driving, and I was like, I'm gonna look up how much it costs. So I'm looking at it, and then I was like, how much did you pay for it way back when? And she's like, oh, I think it was like 2009. I got it for $1,000. And I was like, oh, let's see how much it costs now. I'm looking it up, and then click on the Pottery Barn love seat, 2 seats, same color, same style, and I'm like, oh, it's about $1,700. Wow, that got really expensive. And then she was like, wow, yeah, that is expensive. Well, how much is just the replacement cover? Just for the cover for the seat cushions and the sofa, the love seat. So I'm like, okay, let me look at it. And I'm like, wait, something doesn't make sense. No, $1,700 is just to replace the covers. The actual love seat is $4,000. It used to be 1,000. From the same place, same thing. And she's like, what? I am so confused. I'm like, me too. I'm like looking at it. How can just the replacement covers be $1,700 when the whole thing cost $1,000 16 years ago? What? How does a pasta dinner cost $65 per person? What is this madness? Groceries. Groceries are ridiculous. I just, yeah. So it's like this very slow deterioration. We used to go on some vacations and go like traveling. It is way too expensive to go traveling these days. Like we have to really think very hard if we're gonna fly somewhere and stay in a hotel and do things like that, because it's not like it used to be, where it's much more affordable. Now, flying has its own set of problems with the environment. I mean, it's a huge amount of energy to fly people around the world. So, that's a different subject. But I'm just talking about the quality of life, the cost of living, cost of doing things that people consider pleasurable. It's getting worse. People are angry because of that, and then you get a populist government that rides this wave of anger, and the governments change. The agreement between government and the citizens changes. Same thing happened in Rome. Yeah, well, it doesn't happen overnight. It's just a gradual thing, and you have to keep going to work. There's some funny comics I've seen over the years of like, the skyline of a city is on fire, like literally the whole city is on fire, but the guy has to go to work, or the guy or girl has to go to work, or their boss is telling them that they have to file this report by the end of the workday. But outside the windows, you see through the skyrise, literally the whole city's on fire. We gotta still go to work. We gotta pretend like this stuff isn't happening. It's not happening. There's a really good cartoon that it was I'm sure maybe everyone's seen, not everyone, but most everyone, of that little doggy that has like a hat on and is sipping a cup of coffee at a table, and the whole room is on fire, and the caption says, "This is fine." I think that captures really the feeling of this, what I'm describing. Now, there are places in the world where things have really turned to crap. And they are really crap right now. Gaza, Ukraine, Haiti. I don't know what life is like in Cuba right now. I know they're having some hard times. I don't know what life is like in North Korea, but that didn't happen overnight. Well, it kind of did. Not overnight, but the Korean War took, I don't know how long it was. Well, I mean, I guess technically it's still ongoing because it's an armistice. It's not a treaty. It's just an agreement to end hostilities, but the war is still going on technically. And that was since the 1950s, I believe. Well, yeah, there are places in the world where things have really gone to crap. And in some of those instances, well, even in Gaza, it's been going on for a long time. I mean, now it's really bad, but like It was bad before. Um, Ukraine, well, I mean, Russia first invaded Crimea many years ago, and then this more recent special military operation is, I don't even know how long it's been now. It's a couple of years, I think. But people still have to go to work. I still see in pictures um, when there's like a drone strike on Kiev. I think that's how you say it. The main city there. You'll see like a building blown up, an apartment building blown up, but then there's shops right next to it, and people are still going to work. They're driving to work. They're trying to hustle and make money in this um, capitalist economy system that we have, the civilization that we have of based off of totalitarian agriculture. People are still hustling to feed themselves, feed their babies, keep a roof over their heads, keep the heat coming or air conditioning going, to keep their home at a livable temperature. Even though there's bombs flying overhead, landing on their neighbors or their own house. Life still goes on. Or doesn't. People die. But it's not what these movies show. It kind of makes me want to write a story that describes living in a time where it just gradually gets worse. A funny thing about human psychology is that we're able to normalize things very quickly. So our memory is not as good as we think it is. It doesn't take long for us to reach a new normal. It could be any number of things. Well, I don't think I want to talk about that too much because kind of lost my train of thought. I don't want to talk about that too much because there's some very triggering things if I start talking about that, and I don't want to trigger too many people. This might have already been triggering, but I could trigger people more, but I'm not going to do that. There is one movie that I think did a reasonable job of trying to describe this experience of going through this decline. And that movie it's got Julia Roberts and Mahershala Ali and Ethan Hawke, but I don't remember the title. I'm going to look it up. Yes. Leave the World Behind. 2023, based off of a novel. Now, granted, in that movie, things change pretty quickly within days. So it still falls into the trap of all the other apocalypse movies. But in that one, I thought it was very good because the participants it takes a long time for it to sink in what's happening. And there's a ton of confusion and denial. I thought that movie did a good job of depicting the confusion and denial and the time and difficulty it takes to recognize the problem that these characters are in. That one's pretty good. I think it's probably the best one out of all these movies I've seen. But it still falls into the trap of in the movie, it just takes. I think it just takes a couple days for things to really go bad. Um, but that might just be a plot. It might be a result of making a plot work. But I wonder if there's a way to make a plot work in a story where things take a longer time, like they do in real life, like what we're living through. Because this is kind of horrifying. It's just really slow. It's like watching a train wreck in very slow motion. You have seen the first rail car derail, and you're in the middle of the train, and this train has like 40 cars, but you're hanging out the window and you see the first car derail, and then everything's in slow motion. Oh, we see the second car derail, but you tell your fellow passenger, you're like, hey, the first car derailed, and the second one's starting to too, but it's really slow. And then they're like, what? And then they're like, things feel fine. I don't feel anything in this car. You need to like just chill out. So they don't believe you. And then you're like, oh my gosh, we're all going to die. This whole train is going to fall apart and crash, and everyone's going to die in here. Oh my gosh, I got to tell other people. So then you go to the other passenger. You're like, hey, Mrs. This passenger, just come over here and look out the window. Tell me what you see. And then, so she's all bothered by that, but she's like, she just goes to the window and looks outside, and then she's like, oh, the train's just turning. That's all you see. The first two cars are turning. We're gonna be turning too. Don't worry about it. And then now you're like, maybe you can find another passenger who looks out the window and was like, oh yeah, we're definitely screwed. You're right. But by that time, it's taking some time. Now the third car has derailed. You're in the 10th car. But you can't leave the car. There's no way to get out. There's no way to stop the train. There's no way to even communicate to the front. You're just there. You're just with all these passengers. One lady thinks the train's just turning. One guy thinks nothing's wrong because there's nothing wrong with the car that you're in. One of the passengers thinks, oh yeah, hey, you're right, we're totally screwed. But nothing you can do about it. You're in the 10th car. Just a matter of time. So you sit down in your seat, and you're like, wow. Well, I'm glad I lived my life up until now. I guess I'm still alive. What am I going to do with my time? Maybe you're curious and you just check out the window again and you're like, oh, fourth car's gone. Or it's gone off the tracks. Now the first, second, and third are just completely obliterated. They're on fire. Fourth one's going that way. You're in the 10th car and you're like, yeah, had a good life. But it's not like in the movies where it's like bam, 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 and all 20 cars are derailed and everyone's dead. No, you're sitting there and you're like, oh, well, I'm still alive. I can't really jump off this train because I'll die. Can't stop the train Well, okay, the fifth car just derailed. Well, huh. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. Is there an audiobook I really wanted to listen to before I die? I'm like checking my phone. I don't know if I have time to listen to the whole audiobook, but it kind of seems like I can listen to at least a chapter. So, but is that what I want to do? Maybe I want to play a game of Sudoku. I I don't play Sudoku, but I see people play it and they seem to really like it. Maybe I'll play one last game of Sudoku. Maybe my partner is not on the train with me, and I'm like, no, I wanna call my loved one and tell them I really love them. So I call up my loved one and I'm like, hey, I'm on this train. It's a slow motion train wreck. Yeah, I'm gonna die. There's no way I can stop it, but I haven't died yet. So I just want to tell you, I love you. I'm very grateful for the life we have had together, and I'm gonna miss you. Um, okay, bye. Hang up. You look out the window. Fifth car is still derailing. Wow. What am I gonna do? I gotta pee now. I'm so excited. This is so scary too. Well, is it scary? Because it's going really slow. Well, either way, I gotta go pee. So, you go pee. You come back and you sit down and you're like, okay, I bet you the sixth car is starting to derail. And you look out the window and you're like, yep, sixth car is starting to derail. Well, I said goodbye to my loved ones. I listened to that chapter in the audiobook that I've been putting off my whole life. I solved the hardest Sudoku puzzle. This is a better depiction of real life. Well, better than this instantaneous destruction of the whole civilization overnight or in a couple days. Life isn't like that. I think these movies don't do us a service in showing us what life is really like, the real life experience. So, well, that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you've seen a story that takes a long time, I was beginning to think that there was a movie that did do this, but it still involved an instantaneous event. There was a movie called Into the Woods about two sisters who they're waiting, I think, for their dad at a cabin in the woods, and there was an EMP, a Carrington event, that wiped out all the technology, and things just slowly get worse and worse and worse. But it happened from an instantaneous event. So even that movie didn't quite do it. But if you've seen a movie that did describe what I'm talking about, please share it in the comments. Let me know. I'd be interested in watching it. I think it'd be interesting to hear more stories about that. Maybe I'll make one. Maybe someone who's watching this will get an idea, inspiration to make a story, a TV show, a book, a short story. I think those stories would be very entertaining, interesting, and informative, and thought-provoking, and I think reflect real life much better than the stories we have right now. Well, even though I'm on the 10th car of this slowly derailing train, I am happy to be alive, and I'm happy you're alive. And thanks for watching this video. I will see you in the next video. And I'll leave a little pause here so that the loud commercials that come after this don't come all of a sudden. Bye. Hello, I'm back because while I was uploading this video, I did think of two excellent stories that are out there that describe exactly what I'm talking about, the kind of story that I'm talking about, of being alive in this time. The thing is, they are not apocalypse movies in the normal sense. There are two stories. One is a book that has been made into an older TV show. And is actually being remade into a newer TV show with Idris Elba. But the story, so there's one that's a book, and then there's a movie that both of these are very excellent. Highly recommend reading and watching. First one is Things Fall Apart by to look up the name, Chinua Achebe, Achebe, Chinua Achebe. Things Fall Apart. It's a novel, I think from the 1950s. Excellent. It's in English. But it's about, it's a fictional story about Nigerian tribesmen living in the time right when colonialism occurs in Nigeria. And it is a novel describing what happens to this protagonist, who is one of the leaders of this village. At the time that Europeans come and colonize the land and bring missionaries and Christianity. And how the brief synopsis is that there's a man who's one of the elders in the village, well respected, very masculine, strong person. His father was not well to do and would rather just play the flute and rather than work hard, and their family was destitute. This guy said he didn't want to be like that. He wanted to make himself successful in the village, and he did, and worked hard, and wife and kid, and then this is the Cliff Notes version. There was a murder in the village from another clan that's not theirs, and one of their women is murdered. And so, as a peace offering, the other village gives a boy, the son of the murderer, gives the boy to the village, and the main character is entrusted with taking care of the boy. But their spiritual oracle, the seer for the village, says that the boy must be killed. And they decide together that they have to kill the boy. But the top village elder, the chief, says to the main guy, "Don't be part of this. It'll bring you bad luck." But the main character is so manly and so concerned with his masculinity and being tough. He says, "No, I will kill this boy." And he kills the boy. And then what happens is that it brings bad luck and sorrow on him and his family. And when the chief ends up passing away later, at the funeral, the main character's gun explodes and it kills the elder's son. Accidentally. Because of that killing, the main character and his family are exiled for 7 years to his mother's tribe land. And he lives there for 7 years. Over there, he sees that the white men have come into the African country of Nigeria. And mainly missionaries have come to spread this new religion called Christianity. And the main character doesn't want anything to do with that. He's very happy with his culture and his religion and his way of understanding of the world and the way things have been. But there is a big change happening. Some people are adopting this new religion and leaving the old ways of life and village life and not respecting the old ways. Even the main character's son becomes curious about it and runs away from home. Doesn't say where he goes, but it's assumed that he goes to the mission. After the 7 years of exile, the main character returns back to his home village to find that it's been changed. Now the white men and the village are doing business, and there are converts to the new religion. And when they're doing one of their traditional religious ceremonies with a dance and a mask, one of the converts unmasks the sacred dancer, which is taboo. And this causes outrage in the village, and the village has an uprising to go burn down the church that is the mission. And there's a big fight, and the main character wants to fight to try to preserve their way of life. This is the way that they've been living for centuries, maybe a millennia, who knows. Very long time, as far as I can remember. Now things are falling apart. That's the title of the book, Things Fall Apart. And then there's a confrontation between the white settlers and the Nigerians of this village, and the main character beheads one of the messengers for the white government, expecting that his fellow villagers will rise up with him to drive out the colonizers. But his fellow village people do not rise up with him. And in dejection and sadness, the main character kills himself and brings dishonor to his family, because you're not supposed to do that. Pretty powerful story. Told much better by Chinua Achebe than me in a Cliff Notes version. So I would recommend you check out that book if something like that interests you. Now there's a movie, so movies are much easier to enjoy than a book. A book, requires reading, but movies, you just sit there and you watch and you look at the images and you hear what's happening and see what's happening. There's an excellent movie that is called Embrace of the Serpent. And that one, I'm not going to go through the whole story, but it is very similar. It is a story of a shaman in the Amazon rainforest, way upriver, where colonizers have just started to come, and missionaries. And it tells the story of the shaman when he's younger and when he's older. And you can see how things change from when he's younger to when he's older. It's also a story of loss of a civilization, a way of life, but it's told through the story of colonization. So it's not a story of apocalypse. It is apocalypse for that way of life, for the Nigerian village, for the hunter-gatherer shaman that is living in the Amazon rainforest. It is apocalypse for them. Looking at it from the lens of a civilization that colonized them, it might be tempting to think, oh, well, it's actually progress. We made their lives better. They got They have like wealth and clothes and like a real house instead of a hut with mud and sticks. But if you look at it from the perspective of the Nigerian people or the Amazonian people, they lost everything. They lost their way of life. They lost the people that they love. They lost the forest that they lived in and relied on, the rivers that they lived next to and fished. Now the forests are cut down, the water is polluted, there's much fewer fish, if any. The people lost their tradition, they lost their languages, they lost their religion, they lost everything. So I think those two stories are actually what I'm talking about. That's a real apocalypse of that civilization. But I feel like the civilization that had colonized those two and caused the apocalypse in those two stories is now having its own apocalypse, and it's very slow. So we need new stories. We need new stories to describe this. But yeah, there are two excellent stories. All right, well, now I'm going to pause so that you have a little space before some loud commercial tells you to buy something you don't need. Hope you have a good day or evening. Oh, I wasn't going to say that. I'm happy to be alive, and I'm happy you're alive. See you in the next video.